I find myself on all fours again, like a little dog. Felt like the 80s all over again, only this time I wasn't at work. I came across these mounds of mud that looked like Richard III's. You could see centuries of sediment and history layered there. It's fascinating. Protruding from one of these mounds, I could see a 300-year-old clay pipe. I suddenly became aware of a mudlark standing next to me. Now, to protect his identity, I'm going to call him Anthony. That's like Anthony, but with a lisp. Anthony was in his early 20s, but looked about 12. He had the smallest backpack I'd ever seen. It was like a G-string or a face mask strapped to his back. He was dressed in running shorts and a running top. I sensed he was quite shy. He had this habit of moving really fast, darting around, suddenly appearing and then disappearing. He said he lived in Brighton. It all made sense. I sensed Anthony had run from Brighton to here non-stop with his little rucksack. He asked if I'd found anything. I said, well, there's this clay pipe, and then he was gone. I looked around and he was about a quarter of a mile down the foreshore, darting around. Anyway, I continued digging, trying to get this clay pipe out, and suddenly Anthony appeared again. He thrust his finger out at me and said, what do you think? There, on the end of his finger, was the tiniest of silver coins I had ever seen. I asked him, where'd you find that? And he said, where you are now, earlier on, and then he was gone. I looked around and there he was, half a mile down the foreshore. I never saw him or his little rucksack again. Damn, I broke the stem of the pipe. I can glue it. Nobody will ever know. This is one of my favourite finds from the Thames foreshore. I came across a patch of erosion, and as always, I get on my hands and knees and have a good rummage around. Odd thing to say, I know, especially if you're not a vicar. Anyway, I found this tiny little dog. Beautiful. Now for safekeeping, I put him in my bum bag. That's fanny pack from my American friends. And as I was there on my hands and knees, rummaging around, another mudlark approached. Now, to protect his identity, I'm going to call him Keith. Keith had one of those professional-looking trowels, like he'd just come off an archaeological dig. Mine, on the other hand, looked a bit shit. It's $2.99, big, chunky, from home base. But I had a fanny pack, and he didn't. So in my world, I was one up. We got talking, and he asked what I'd found. I reached into my fanny pack and showed him the dog. He laughed, said, that's plastic, mate, and then took it from me, put it in his mouth and rubbed it against his teeth, and then said, actually, that's porcelain. I was shocked, and also in awe, shocked that he'd taken something I'd found from the Thames foreshore and put it in his mouth, shocked that that was now in my hand. But also in awe that he could tell, just using his teeth, if something was porcelain or not. Keith was very fast becoming my hero, until I noticed he had a ponytail, and then that all went out the window. We spoke a bit more, exchanged stories, and then he went on his way, ponytail flapping in the wind. I've come across some incredibly interesting people on the Thames foreshore. Most, I would think, like me, are on day release. I was on all fours the other day. This is how you would normally find me, both on the Thames foreshore and in life. I was digging out this clay pipe stem, real stonker, super long, probably, I would say, a Church Warden's. Anyway, I heard a very strange sound. It was like two foxes mating. Anyway, I turned around and I saw a mudlark walking towards me. Now, to protect her identity, I'm going to call her Karen. Karen wore knee pads, and these were chafing as she walked. This was the sound. Anyway, we got chatting, and I asked if she'd found anything. She pulled out a box from her jacket pocket. It's like a fines box, and she opened it and pulled out some Tudor pins, and then some red garnets, and then a silver hammered coin, and then what looked like a Roman coin. I could tell this was not her first rodeo. Honestly, she was like a walking British bloody museum. Anyway, she asked if I found anything, and I said just this clay pipe stem. I realised it was a bit shit in comparison. I put my hand in my fanny pack and pulled out a piece of pottery. I showed it to her and said, yes, this is what I found. And she said, a piece of Staffordshire slipware. She then started to tell me about the history of Staffordshire slipware. By the 7th minute, I was seriously losing the will to live. But thankfully, the words of Prime Minister Rishi Sunak came to my mind when he spoke about the financial crisis that we were in. He said, we have to hold our nerve. I felt somehow I could trust these words from our unelected billionaire Prime Minister who had never had a mortgage in his life. I thanked Rishi silently in my heart for his wise words and also for suggesting we all do an extra year of maths. Anyway, suddenly Karen just stopped talking and said, I can't stand here talking to you all day, and walked off. Knee pads chafing. Turns out this was a twig.